Good morning. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Free Press Media Press Inc., an alternative parties books publisher, sponsors this podcast. I'm Andrew Bouchard. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Today, friends, we have another exciting guest on the podcast like we always do. His name is Matt Jordan, and he's with the political party, I'm butchering the name, the political party blooper. Matt, what is
Playbook.
it? Playbook.
Political
Okay, I'm sorry
Party
about that.
Blooper Playbook. P4B.
All those P's. So welcome to the podcast, Matt.
Thank you.
Matt, let's get started, if you don't mind, by kindly telling us a brief introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch.
Okay. I am a retired, if you could call it that, writer and woodworker. I was 23 years Navy and 15 years with a contractor near D.C.
Oh.
That's where I got exposed to a great deal of government operations.
Huh.
And I've been writing since about 2011.
Okay.
I've had a podcast, in one form or another called Street Politics. Part of it was called Pedestrian Politics and Economics. And it was all of it born of George Bush 41 losing to Bill Clinton.
Huh. Interesting.
So years of podcasting and a book were born from that campaign.
Oh, wow. So your writing is political in nature?
That's correct.
Okay.
I would say 90%. Every once in a while, I'll cut loose and do sports or health or something like that, just to give people an emotional break.
Okay, so is it writing like in books or is it blogs? What type of writing is it specifically?
Well, I have one book that's out right now. I have another one rattling around in my head.
Oh.
The first one was called Street Politics. It Ain't Your Daddy's GOP Anymore.
Oh.
And that was the main thing, where the concept of the book was created in 1992. But I didn't retire until 2014.
Okay.
So I started writing what I saw as the problem going all the way back to Bush and beyond for conservative politicians. And the book was pretty much in the can in 2014. I just had some revisions I wanted to do. The presidential campaign started up. I had said in the book that the next Republican to win the White House was going to be brash, in your face. He's not going to be afraid of controversy. He's going to tell you what he's thinking when he's thinking it. And then Donald Trump came down the golden escalator.
Oh, my.
And I
you forecasted that.
Ruh-roh. I did, but I didn't think it would be a Donald Trump. I thought it would be somebody like Ted Cruz, who decided to just let go of the poll-tested terms and get loud and ugly.
Okay.
But Trump ended up being that guy. And you would think he and Bernie Sanders read my book.
Oh, wow.
They were, throughout that campaign, they proved every major political point in the book. Not necessarily policy, of course, because Bernie Sanders and I would disagree on everything in terms of policy except for Second Amendment. So there it was. The book was out there, and so was Donald Trump. So I moved over about a year ago, I moved over to Substack and started doing a podcast.
Oh.
Most of my podcasts are accompanied with a full text. Sometimes I'll do a video.
Oh, okay.
And that's where things stand right now.
All right. So what happened back then during that election? I'm old enough to remember that election between George Bush the First and Bill Clinton. I remember following that. I was in junior high around then, so I was starting to get interested in politics then. So what happened in that election that was the trajectory that changed to where we're at now?
First, I got to tell you, you sound younger than you are.
Yeah, people say that all the time.
You have a very young voice. I guess that's to your advantage.
Yeah, I look very young too, so yeah, definitely.
Oh, good. To keep that. It's a weapon. 1992, I watched H.W. yawn his way through an election. And then I watched this pseudo-intellectual hayseed and his control freak wife just meteor right to the top of the Democratic Party. And it was easy to see what people liked about these two. I believe deep down, people liked the idea that Clinton was a lech. You know, say what you want, all the headlines, people pretending to freak out. I think the average voter was like, well, this guy's different. And Hillary didn't pull punches either. Meanwhile, Bush 41 is kind of just easing through the campaign, doing all the standard political cliche crap, and he didn't get emotional. I think somebody finally jerked his chain in the last week, and he started, getting loud, getting down. But by that time, momentum had destroyed his campaign, and he lost. So a few years later, I decided I wanted to write about that. But I didn't want to get into writing a book because I was still, at the time I was in the Navy, then later I was working for a highly secure job, and I didn't want to put my neck out there and claim allegiance to any kind of party or policy.
Sure.
So I just started my own website and just promoted it on my personal social media.
Okay.
A book would have been a little bit too loud, I think. I started the book, as I said, in 14 when I knew I was getting ready to do early retirement, do some traveling. That's when I started writing the book. But in answer to your question, it was definitely Bush's lackadaisical campaign and a recognition that if things were ever going to change in this country, that we needed more direct politicians who weren't afraid of controversy. And unfortunately, we only have one or two right now.
Oh, my. So you mentioned Donald Trump. What's the other one or two?
Well, you got a few of the congressmen. Again, my brain's not working. The name escapes me. Chip Roy. Seems to be in that breed. You do have a couple knucklehead congressmen who are loud and obnoxious, but they don't seem to have the policy chops.
Okay.
But I think very, very, very slowly people are learning the lessons I try to put in the book and in my website. Oftentimes the ones who try it confuse being open and out there and honest with being obnoxious and saying obnoxious things.
True.
AOC and the squad come to mind. I'm trying to think of others, but Trump is an example of that too. The 12-year-old tweets and the little silly personal shots, they're popular with the Trump cult.
Yeah.
But if he's going to win a general election, he's got to calm down with that crap and demonstrate what he's capable of doing, say in a boardroom. Because I've heard lots of times from people who know that when you close the doors, he turns into a different guy. And he talks differently. He needs to keep the honesty, keep the willingness to face controversy, but at the same time, talk like an adult. If he made a tack right now and started talking like a grown-up, I think 80% of the electorate would say, holy crap, this is different. You know, I might be able to wrap my head around this a little bit. Let's hope. Because unfortunately, I think he's going to be the nominee.
You think?
Yeah. Right now, momentum's on his side. He could shoot a nun on Fifth Avenue and his cult would vote for him anyway.
Huh. Some people are wondering about his legal troubles. You don't think that's going to stop him?
Only if he's found guilty.
Oh, okay.
Prior to taking office.
Oh,
And
okay.
they're certainly trying to pile him on and get him done quick for that purpose. I don't think he's guilty of anything significant, and I don't think the people doing this really care about a guilty verdict. They're just tarring him.
Okay.
They're just trying to weaken him. However, if he doesn't get a guilty verdict against him before the election, that idea is going to backfire badly. Because right now he looks like somebody being persecuted by a banana republic.
Oh, huh.
That actually cuts to his advantage.
Okay. So do you see him as a conservative, or some people would not call him conservative?
You talking about Trump?
Yeah.
No. He does one thing that conservatives do well. As president, he just got the hell out of the way. He wasn't interested in micromanaging an economy. And that's why the economy exploded under Trump. He got out of the way. But he is pure populist. He's not a conservative. He's not a liberal. When Congress was considering yet another pile of money for COVID, all of which got wasted, the Republicans were saying, no, we're not doing $1 trillion anything. And the Democrats were calling for $2 trillion. Well, as president, Trump sounds into the argument saying, no, go big, go bigger than the Democrats, make it $3 trillion. You know, because he wanted to be one of the guys saying, look, I gave you $1 trillion, which of course is a myth. The government doesn't give you anything. They take from you, and then sometimes they give some of it back. But it's all our money to begin with. It was just wasted.
Sure. So do you think some people would have criticized George Bush the first because he was a moderate Republican, especially compared to his son and other people? So do you think that was part of the reason that his campaign didn't catch much steam?
I think there's truth in that. If you want to say that a moderate is someone who doesn't take too strong a stance, someone who is afraid to stand out too much or cause controversy, yes, then he definitely was a moderate. He also, and so did his son, despite the reputation, had policies that were not moderate and they were not conservative. Compassionate conservatism, no child left behind, with Bush 43 were examples of conservatives trying to please liberals or trying to please the press, which is something you just can't do. You can try it, but they're not going to buy off on it for you.
So from Bush 41 to Trump, they did have a lot of different types of people representing. They had Bob Dole, and then they had George Bush, and then they had
John
Romney.
McCain.
Yep, all those different types of people. So what was the common denominator in them that made the party go downhill?
Well, Bush had 2 terms. He was successful.
Yep.
And he was more popular than revisionist historians would have you believe. He did well. I'm talking about W now.
Yes.
the reason why they failed, McCain and Dole were party hacks. They both got the nomination because people said, well, it's just their turn. That's the reason why we have the zombie in the White House we have right now. The party recognizes, oh, he's been around for a while, the old man. It's his time, you know. And then with Romney, you had a guy who couldn't nail down a philosophical position.
Oh, okay.
If you stand in the middle of the road, you have a great chance of getting run over by both sides.
True.
And I would say that's what McCain and Romney both did. You can't say I am of this cut of cloth and then pretend to be something else, either in a primary or in a general, to try to please people, because it doesn't work, because people aren't stupid. You know, they eventually realize this guy's jerking my chain. Or, I would say in Romney's case, people thought, well, if I'm just going to get Democrat light, why don't I should just vote for a Democrat. You know, if that's the direction it's going, I'll go with what I know, not with milquetoast kind of sort of Democrat. Reagan said, you got to paint with broad colors, with bright colors, not pale pastels. And that's because people have lives. They have work, they have kids, they have hobbies, they have activities. They don't have time to try to discern the subtleties of your argument, which is a shame, because that's where the demon lives. But if you paint in broad strokes, bright colors, people get your message. It's a lot easier to digest. And if they like it, you're in.
So you see the decline as part of the party trying to please people too much up to 2016? Okay.
Yeah, all the way up to Trump, and ever since Trump, you still have a conservative movement that's trying to sound good to the press, trying to say things that the media will carry favorably or carry at all. And the reason it doesn't work is because the media will never do that for a conservative, not the mainstream media, not what they call the legacy media. Trump gets coverage because Trump kicks over all the tables when he walks into a room. He can't be ignored. We need more politicians, especially the guys that are running right now, to stop being careful. They need to take on Trump. They need to take on the Democrats. They need to do it by name, and they need to do it loud, or they're all going to fail. The only guy doing it right now is Ramaswamy, and he has no name recognition, and he's the kind of guy you really do have to listen to understand. And your typical voter, at least not at the moment, will pay attention. Maybe after Labor Day, he'll get a little more traction, a little more notice. But in my opinion, he's the best conservative on the ticket right now.
Oh, okay. So earlier you talked about how part of conservative is staying out of the way of not using the government, staying out of the way of the economy and the people. So was that the core definition of conservative for you? Is a laissez-faire type of approach to government?
Well, I dedicated a whole chapter in the book to what is a conservative and what is not a conservative.
Interesting.
For example, a lot of people think I'm a born-again Christian because I'm a conservative. That couldn't be further from the truth. I'm godless, but they assume that because of what people think a conservative is. A conservative is not necessarily a Christian.
True.
There are Christians in this country who conflate their own religion with conservatism, and that's fine. If you believe your religion drives you to do what you do and be a good person, then it does. Okay? I wouldn't argue about that. So, the Christian, a great deal of the Christian movement is part of conservatism, but that doesn't make them conservative. A conservative, in my opinion, does not or should not care about personal issues. Individual type social issues. They should be driven back to the states, municipal governments, or ideally to the people themselves to decide what they want to do.
Okay.
I do draw the line at, like right now, you've got this trans fat. I draw the line at kids. We need to do anything we need to do to stop this nonsense being foisted on kids. They're not coming up with it themselves. Anyway, I digress. So if you're gay or you're black or you're whatever, a conservative should not care. And I don't mean in a good way, and I don't mean in a bad way. If you have an issue and you're a black man, I don't care that you're black. I just don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It's not an issue for me. What I care about is if you're a citizen and things are not serving you, your individual liberties or your individual right to exist in your own domicile are being affected, or your wealth is being taken away by the government, then as a conservative, it's up to me to fight for you.
Okay.
But I don't give a crap about the ancillary stuff. It doesn't matter to me, you know. And so conservatives could take a lesson on that.
Okay, so it's a type of civil libertarianism then.
That's a good analogy. That's pretty close. I would say fiscally, I'm definitely conservative. Socially, yes, you could probably label me a libertarian.
Okay.
You do you live your life, and I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Just don't try to live my life.
Sure. You say for economically you consider yourself a conservative. How does conservative economics differ from libertarian economics?
I find, and this is not a shot at the philosophy, but at communication. Excuse me, I was taking a drink. I find when I read libertarian publications, and I watch libertarian candidates, I did vote for one time.
Oh, good.
A long time ago, but I often see mixed messages that can't live on the same plane.
Interesting.
I think conservative and liberal, or what's a better term for conservative? Fiscal right wing versus left liberal are big umbrellas, but they're easier to define. The libertarians try to put themselves between conservatives and liberals, leaning maybe a little to the conservative side. But I have a difficult time defining libertarian.
Oh.
But for myself.
Huh.
And it could be I simply haven't read enough, or I haven't spent enough time on the issue. But going back to the name of your podcast, libertarians are probably the best known alternate group.
True.
I know that the no names or no labels, whatever they call themselves, they're starting to get some traction because the media likes them right now.
Oh, they do, huh?
But I think both parties make the same mistake. Every election cycle, you'll see libertarians at the top of tickets. And that's fine. There's no reason that you shouldn't take a shot. But in order to be successful, you need to organize libertarianism or no labels, or the one you had on the other day, the risk versus cost party.
Yeah.
You need to organize them at the neighborhood level first.
Sure.
You need to elect councilmen and mayors of small towns and let them build names for themselves. Move on to the state legislatures. Once you have some power, if a big name wants to jump in there and jump ahead and you support them, then that's good too. But libertarians have not mastered the trenches yet, and yet they want to be on the summit, as people see it. Even that's backwards, and we can talk about that later if you want. But people have a screwed up view of the political process in this country, and the libertarians have a chance to fix that.
Huh. So how would they fix that?
Well, you look at the United States, which as an experiment no longer exists. It doesn't exist right now. As it was designed, the most important politician in your life, the guy who should be getting indigestion and losing sleep at night, should be your mayor and your city council. They should be the busiest people. They should be up to their eyeballs in issues that affect you. Much less your state legislature and governor, and almost not at all Congress, the House, and the President. That's the way the system was designed, and that's where the power has to be devolved back to in order for the American experiment to be revived. The only thing, what do we have left? The Electoral College as a function. Everything else has been taken over by the federal government. Wow. What was that?
Some car, somebody with, one of those people with the loud motors.
It sounded like a rocket taking off from your front yard. But, yeah, we need to reverse it again. We need to put power back as local and close to the people as possible. And I dedicated a chapter of that, too, to the book.
Okay.
That the next great president would oversee the greatest surrender of power in American history, going all the way back to when Washington turned his sword over to Congress. We've turned the presidency into an imperial office. We've handed all our power and all our liberty and all our rights have been turned over to a handful of knuckleheads who don't care about you. They don't care about you or me. They have an agenda. They have money to make and power to accrue, and that's all you do if you're a part of a strong central government. And the House of Representatives have turned over almost all their authority to the executive. It's political suicide we've committed since FDR.
Oh my.
Maybe going far back as Wilson. He used to complain that the Constitution was stupid because it wouldn't let him manage the country.
Huh.
Even then, people said, the president runs the country. Well, he may, but that's not the intent, and that's not how America remains successful. We got to get back to that.
So how do we get back to that? Is there an action? Is it like somebody? You said Trump did well on his first term by not using the power too much is something like that, or is there other actions that would take us back there?
Well, Trump was a good demonstration.
Okay.
But like I said, he tended to be all over the map. He was as willing to blow $3 trillion as he was to get out of the way of productivity and investment and regulation. He didn't want to be regulating too much. What he doesn't recognize, and he probably does now because he learned a lot of hard lessons as president, is with money comes regulation. You know, Uncle's not going to hand you $1 trillion and then not tell you how to live your life. I think the change would have to be generational.
Okay.
You have to start, and this could be the platform the Libertarian Party could take as an example. You have to start with the basic message. The experiment's gone. There is no United States of America as designated by the U.S. Constitution, because the U.S. Constitution is all but ignored in this country. People think whatever makes them feel good is what is constitutional, and that's certainly not the case. You have to sell that message in a positive way that people can wrap their heads around, so that their kids and their grandkids have it cemented into their heads at school. And that's a tough ask for anybody.
Sure.
But it has to start with people who are willing to really stir up some controversy and really upset some people. It's when people are upset that things tend to happen. The alternative is chaos, and that's where we're headed on a rocket sled right now.
Oh no. So that's a call to whoever's out there listening that.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said what you're saying is a call to who's listening to our podcast right now that we need to not be afraid to cause controversy.
That's correct, no matter what your political stripe. Now, cause controversy isn't an excuse to be stupid or hateful.
True.
There's way too much of that in American politics. I can't think of a major name. Remember, like I mentioned Chip Roy and a few people in Congress that seem to have the right idea, but the big names are either milquetoast or all they can do is personal attack. They have no argument. The squad has no argument. They cannot articulate an honest, serious, mature policy. So they name call. And they stir up controversy that way. And that's not how you do it. That's not going to feed the kitty. It got Trump over because Trump was such a shock to the system. But the next generation of successful conservatives has to be as unafraid as Donald Trump, but as articulate as Vivek Ramaswamy.
Oh, okay.
A
so
guy
traits
like
from both
that,
of them.
Pardon me?
Traits from both of them.
Do what with both of them?
Combining traits from both of those individuals.
Yeah, right. If you could combine Ramaswamy's intelligence and articulation with Trump's willingness to touch noses, that could trigger a trend that would result in the United States moving back in the right direction. I think Ramaswamy could actually do it, but he's got to get louder. He's got to make the news cycle a whole lot more often, and there's only one way to do that. At this point, he has to take on Trump directly and take on Biden directly, along with what he's already saying, which is all great stuff. Have you had a chance to listen to Ramaswamy yet?
Not too much. No, in fact, not at all. my mom was telling me about him, but other than that, I haven't heard too much about him.
He's a walking education.
Oh, okay.
He's a successful businessman, and he knows simply what works. He's another one who says, just get out of the way of the economy. People working in their own self-interest will create an economy that works. You know? So I hope he becomes more successful.
Sure. So Matt, what was the name of the book again for our audience?
Yeah, the book is called Street Politics.
Street Politics?
It ain't your daddy's GOP anymore is the subtitle. It's on Amazon. It sells in spurts, so if it's not running right now, you may have to put my name, Matt Jordan, and the name of the book, and then it'll find it for you.
Okay.
And of course the website is the Political Party Pooper Playbook, or P4B. That's at www.streetpolitics.us. When I returned to Substack, they forced me to put the www back on. I don't know why.
Huh.
So all my hats and shirts had to be changed now.
Oh no.
Yeah, and we have merchandise. You can go to Pearl River Furniture and you can find some of our gear. That's the way I eat my SpaghettiOs is to get supported through Pearl River Furniture. That's pearlriver.etsy.com.
Oh, okay, so you sell stuff on Etsy. You sell that stuff on Etsy.
Right. I do.
Okay.
I do furniture. Right now, I'm dedicating all my time to my writing and my podcasting. So there's no furniture or yard games there right now. But there's a ton of stuff that I designed and had made elsewhere. Some of it's just funny, silly. Some of it's political. There's some sports stuff there. I try to be ready for the holidays, but I'm not always up on that.
Sure.
And I do want to get back in a wood shop. I've been making sawdust for 40 years.
Oh my.
Yeah. But right now I was pretty discouraged watching Biden actually enter the White House.
Huh.
And I was kind of like fed up with politics. So I'm back in the groove now. I'm communicating. As a matter of fact, I'm serializing the book on the website.
Oh. Okay.
Every 2 or 3 weeks. If you want to read the book, by all means, you should buy it at Amazon. But if you want to read it over time, I put a chapter or two every couple of weeks on the website.
That sounds great.
At streetpolitics.us. And that's been fun. It's kind of like reliving the writing process. I still find bad edits I have to correct before I post it. But yeah, that's a great way to come by and support us.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. Matt, we appreciate you coming on the podcast today and talking about your perspective of the trajectory of our political system.
Not a problem, man. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate you having me.
Of course.
And if I can cut into your busy schedule in the next few weeks, I think you need to come on P4B.
All right. Sounds good. We can talk about that offline.
Yeah. Get on the other side of the microphone. You can tell me what you think.
Sure. All right.
I'll put you on the spot.
That would be a good experience. I haven't done that too many times.
Yeah, that'll work for me.
All
Andrew,
right.
it was great
Excellent.
meeting you, and it was great working with you.
Yes, exactly. All right. You have a good day, and we wish you the best in all your endeavors.
All right, my brother. You too.
All right. Bye now.
All right, bye.